Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. So today's video is going to be my anticipated releases for 2025. Now, I had to break this down. I have like over 50 books on this list. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this down into quarters of the year, especially because I feel like a lot of books aren't necessarily announced yet, and we're still waiting for them with release dates and certain things. So I think that's gonna work out best for me at this moment. So we're gonna talk about the book releases I'm looking forward to in January, February, March, and April. With that being said, let's just get into it. So January, obviously I'm very excited for Onyx Store, which comes out January 21st. I think a lot of us are that are in the Fourth Wing fandom. But this is the third book in the Fourth Wing series about dragon riders at Basgiath War College, and I am so excited to hear the continuation of the story. Obviously, I can't tell you much about it because it's the third book, but let me tell you, we're pumped. Me and my friend Kate are going to the midnight release party, and we're gonna immediately read it. I'm very excited about it, even though I have to work the next day. That's gonna be rough, but that's okay. So obviously very excited for that and to see what adventures Violet and Taran get into. The other three that I have on this have already been released, but one of them is Immortal by Sue Lin Tan. This one just sounds really, really good. I've yet to read a Sue Lin Tan book, but I've always really wanted to read her books. I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess right here, and it's just ones that I haven't gotten to, you know. But it says a stunning standalone romantic fantasy filled with dangerous secrets, forbidden magic, and passion of a young ruler who fights to protect her kingdom. And it's set in the world of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is interesting. What the gods did not give us, I would take. And essentially she is the heir, and she's supposed to ascend to the throne and renew her kingdom's pledge to serve the immortals. But when she is poisoned, her grandfather steals a magic lotus to save her life. But the immortal queen is enraged by his betrayal and commands the powerful god of war to attack the land. And she ascends to the throne, vowing to end the deal with the immortals. But she is summoned into the immortal realm, and she kind of enters into a alliance to learn secrets and safeguard her people with the one she shouldn't trust the most, which is the god of war. And things go from there. So it sounds really, really interesting, and I'm excited to read it. The next one that already came out for January is Breath of the Dragon by Shannon Lee and Fonda Lee, which I haven't read a Fonda Lee book yet, and this is a YA book, which is interesting. And this is Breathmarked #1. The first novel in a sweeping YA fantasy duology based on characters and teachings created by Bruce Lee. 16-year-old June dreams of proving his worth as a warrior in the Elite Guardians tournament, held every 6 years to entrust the magical scroll of Earth to a new protector. Eager to prove his skills, June hopes that a win will restore his father's honor, making a horrible mistake that caused their banishment from his home, mother, and twin brother. But June's father strictly forbids him from participating. There is no future in honing his skills as a warrior, especially considering June is not breathmarked, born with the patch of a dragon scales, and blessed with special abilities like his twin. Determined to be the next guardian, June stows away in the wagon of Chang and his daughter Ren, performers on their way to the capital where the tournament will take place. As June competes, he quickly realizes that he may be fighting for not just a better life, but the fate of the country itself. This sounds interesting and good. And the last one in January is A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I actually do have a copy of this because it came in my fairy loot, but it says, every act of translation requires sacrifice. Welcome to Bletchley Park with Dragons. London, 1923. Dragons soar through the skies and protests erupt on the streets, but Vivian Featherswallow isn't worried. She's going to follow the rules, get an internship studying dragon languages, and make sure her little sister never has to risk growing up third class. And I remember the little synopsis that Fairy Loot gave when I opened that special edition was an incredible historical fantasy about dragon linguistics with a dark academia setting and featuring enemies to lovers romance. Sign me up, you know? I love dragons. I love dark academia. I love those types of things. I'm very excited about those. It's kind of weird that I'm talking about them because almost all of them are out right now, but I am excited about them and I do want to read them. And then we get into February. This one actually just recently came on my radar and I added it last minute to my anticipated releases, and that is Grave Empire by Richard Swan. This is book 1 in the Great Silence series. This comes out February 4th, and it says, from critically acclaimed author Richard Swan, Grave Empire begins the epic tale of an empire on the verge of industrial revolution where sorcery and arcane practices are outlawed, and where an ancient prophecy threatens the coming end of days. So that's kind of vague, right? But it sounds interesting. And essentially it sounds like there is this great prophecy that's being unfolded that will mean the end of everything, and there's a plague breaking out, and it falls to this person who is still practicing the ancient arcane arts. I don't know, but it sounds pretty good, right? And then on February 4th as well, we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is her new romance book, and I just really like Ali Hazelwood. I've ended up really enjoying her books and her writing, and I think everything I've read from her I really liked. Even if it wasn't my favorite, I really liked it, and it was good. And this one is just like catching my interest for some reason. I'm really excited about this one. I believe it is a swimmer romance or a surfing romance. It says, oh yeah. It says a competitive diver and an ace swimmer jump into forbidden waters in this steamy college romance. So I trust Ali Hazelwood enough at this point to read this, and excited to see where it will lead. And then also on February 4th, we have The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. Keep getting this one mixed up with another book that I'm thinking of, so let me look here. It says The Cruel Prince meets The Selection in this captivating duology opener brimming with a heart-pounding romance, vicious competition, and beautiful, cruel fae. Every citizen of England is granted one bargain from their immortal fae queen. High society girls are expected to bargain for qualities that will win them suitors. Oh, that's interesting. A rare talent for piano in exchange for one's happiest childhood memory. A perfect smile for one's ability to taste. Ivy Benton's debut season arrives with a shocking twist. A competition to secure the heart of the Queen's fae son, Prince Brahm. A prize that could save Ivy's family from ruin, and her sister from the bargain that destroyed her. Yet every glittering fae deal has a rotting heart. And at the center of its contest is a dark plot that could destroy everything Ivy knows. Sweepingly romantic and deceptively enchanting, this alternate history romance will enthrall readers of Holly Black, Stephanie Garber, and Adeline Grace. Say less. I'm not a super big Holly Black fan, but I love Stephanie Garber. So that one also sounds just really interesting and fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then I'm very excited about these as well. On February 11th, we have Emily Wilde and the Compendium of Lost Tales by Heather Fawcett. This is, is it the last book? I think this is the last book, but I'm not sure. But the first book is the Encyclopedia of Fairies. So obviously I can't give you a lot of information on this, but I am very curious to see how the world will open up in this book and where the story will continue from Encyclopedia of Fairies and Map of the Otherlands. I'm curious to see what's going to come to play in this one. But it says she's going to embark on her most dangerous academic project yet. Ooh, I'm very excited. And then another one that I thought was coming out last year is coming out February 11th, and that is The Forest King's Daughter. This is book 1 in the Thirstwood series by Ellie Blake. And weirdly enough, I love Ellie Blake by her Frostblood series. I've only read Frostblood. I really need to finish that series like ASAP, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. And so when I saw that she was coming out with a new series after so long, let me see. Yeah, her last book came out in 2018, so now she's coming out with one in 2025. So I'm very excited to read this and to see where this author goes. But it says, for fans of Sarah J. Maas and Holly Black, The Forest King's Daughter is an enemies to forbidden lovers romance. Once upon a time, among the blood-red trees of Thirstwood, a young forest princess became friends with a lonely demon boy. He gifted her an amber ring, a worthless trinket, or so he thought, because no sooner did he slide it onto her finger than the demon queen and forest king declared war. Years later, Cassia is a cruel force in her father's army, wielding her ring of light and can blind and disorient hundreds of demons at a time. Then battle-hardened Zaru abducts her, planning to steal the ring back to fix his costly childhood mistake. Exhausted, terrified, and more than a little mistrusting, Cassia is forced to travel with Zaru to a place they both believed only existed in storybooks. One where their childhood friendship slowly rekindles into something much more, but it's only a matter of time before the war they've escaped comes for them, and a hidden threat to the forest folk and demons alike grows in the shadows. It's the first book in an enchanting, adventure-filled fantasy series about the daughter of the powerful forest king, sure to leave readers breathless and desperate for more. I'm just very excited about it being this author's work and can't wait to read it. And then the last one on February for this list is The Otherw Post by Emily J. Taylor. I read the Hotel Magnifique and loved it. I really, really, really liked it, even though a lot of people didn't, but I really did. And she's coming out with another book that is a standalone called The Otherw Post, and it comes out February 25th. And it says that the author of Hotel Magnifique returns with another glittering dark fantasy about a deadly mystery that spans worlds and a teenage girl who must risk everything to uncover the truth. I'm so excited. 7 years ago, Maeve Abinthy lost her world, her father, even her name. Desperate to escape the stain of her father's crimes, she lives under a fake name. Never staying in one place long enough to put down roots, then she receives a mysterious letter with 4 impossible words: "Your father was innocent." To uncover the truth, she poses as an apprentice for the Otherw Post, where she'll be trained in the art of scriptomancy, the dangerous magic that allows couriers to enchant letters and deliver them to other worlds. But looking into her father's past draws more attention than she planned. Her secretive, infuriatingly handsome mentor knows she's lying about her identity, and time is running out to convince him to trust her. Worse, she begins to receive threatening letters warning her to drop her investigation, or else. For Maeve to unravel the mystery of what happened 7 years ago, she may have to forfeit her life. I'm so excited. I'm really, really looking forward to that one. And then we get into March. April is kind of hefty, but then we get into March, and I'm kind of curious about this one. So I feel like there's ones that you're like really anticipating, and then ones that you're anticipating because you're curious, but you're not super hyped. I feel like that's this for me. I'm curious because it's called Dragon Cursed, and it's by Elise Kova. I haven't loved all my Elise Kova reads so far, but I'm very curious about this. I don't see a description. I feel like I've heard people talk about this. Show No Mercy. I'm like not finding much information about this book, but in this interview she did, it says, every teen in the final human stronghold of a blighted land is subject to brutal tests designed to separate the dragon hunters from the dragon cursed. And one young woman declared a hero reborn must fight for her life amidst growing suspicion that there is more to this curse than meets the eye. Dragons, dragon hunters, slow-burn romance between star-crossed lovers in a world on the brink of destruction. Dragon Cursed is a brand new world set in a city besieged by dragons where magic is dying and one young woman is going to find the truth behind why. It's got dragons and I'm curious. That's all I need, right? And then this is another one I'm kind of curious about. This one is coming out March 4th as well, and it is A Harvest of Hearts by Andrea Ames. In the beloved tradition of Howl's Moving Castle, a whimsical and unforgettable story of fantasy, a fantastic adventure, common sense, and the power of love to overcome the greatest of obstacles. Before Foss Butcher was snagged, she thought no more of the magic users than did anyone else in her village. Sometimes gorgeous women in impossible carriages rolled into town and took bits of people's hearts. Everyone knew hearts fueled their magic, but Foss, plain, clumsy, and practical as a boot, never expected anyone would want hers. True enough, when the only sorcerer in the kingdom stepped from his glossy carriage, he didn't intend to hook Foss. Sylvester's riot of black curls and perfectly etched cheekbones caught her eye a moment too long, and that was all. Suddenly, Foss is cursed and finds herself stomping toward the grand city to keep his enchanted house. Her only friend is a talking cat, and the walls themselves have moods. But as Foss learns the ways of magic, she realizes she's far from the only unwilling captive. Even Sylvester is harmed by his spells and threats. It says his sorcery protects kings, country, and order for thousands. If Foss wants to free herself, and perhaps Sylvester, she'll have to confront it all and uncover the blight nestled in the heart of the kingdom itself. It's really interesting, and it does sound a lot like Howl's Moving Castle, so I think I will like it. But it's kind of intriguing and mysterious. And then Faithbreaker is coming out by Hannah Kaner. This is the last book in the Fallen God series, and the first one is God Killer, and I'm very interested to see how the story wraps up. I really loved the first one. The second one I wasn't the biggest fan of, so I'm hoping it like all wraps together in this one. And it is the finale, so we'll see how it goes. Obviously, I can't tell you much about it because it's the third and final book, but I am curious to see how the story ends. And that comes out on the 13th, but actually there's one that comes out on the 11th I wanted to talk about, which is What Wakes the Bell by Elle Tesh. Never heard of this author before. On the cover it says, her city lives and breathes and bleeds, and now it hunts. Inspired by an ominous prog league, What Wakes the Bell is a lavish gothic fantasy by debut author, Elle Tesh, there we go. Built by long-gone saints, the city of Viwen lives and breathes and bleeds. As a keeper, Mina knows better than most what her care of Viwen's bells means for the sentient city. It's the Strauss family's 1,000-year legacy. Prevent the vespers from ringing, or they will awake a slumbering evil. One afternoon, to her horror, the bell peals 13 times. shattering the city's tenuous peace, with so much of the city's history and lore lost in a long ago disaster. No one knows the danger that has been unleashed, until the city fights back. As the sun sets, stone gargoyles and bronze statues tear away from their buildings and plinths to hunt people through the streets. Trapped in Mina's bell, the soul of a twisted and power-hungry saint festered. Now free of its prison, he hides behind the face of one of the citizens, corrupting the city and turning it in on itself. Time is running out. The only chance Mina has to stop the destruction and horrific killings is finding and destroying the saint's host. Everyone is a suspect, including Mina's closest loved ones. She will have to decide how far she'll go to save the city and who she's willing to kill to do it. I don't know if I read the whole synopsis before. That sounds insane and very tense and exciting. And then I do want to read this, but I'm kind of curious about it. It's the next installment in the Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore, and it is The Strawberry Pancake House. Love blossoms in the most unexpected places. I read The Christmas Tree Farm by her in December, and I'm kind of curious about it. I'm probably not going to go back and read the other two yet, but I'm curious about this one. I think it was the tropes that, single dad, forced proximity, slow burn, found family in one bed was kind of the intriguing part, but it's essentially he's a renowned chef and is a single dad, and he's moved to this town and he's running a pancake restaurant, and that just sounds kind of cute. So I'm curious. It's really all there is to it. And then we get to one that everybody's anticipating, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the next Hunger Games book. We all love some Hunger Games here. And this one is following Haymitch's story, which is so exciting. I'm very excited to see what happens in his Hunger Games and just how it all comes about in the Quarter Quell, which is the other time that twice as many tributes compete. So we're all very much looking forward to that, and that comes out March 18th. And then the next one that comes out in March, I have like zero information on. The author just announced the cover like yesterday, and she said it's coming out in March, but she didn't give an exact date. And that is How to Fake Date a Human 101 by Jennifer Crope. This is book 4 in the High Court of the Coffee Bean series. I've read the first 2 books, and I'm looking forward to reading the 3rd book, but didn't know when the 4th one was coming out. And now apparently it's coming out in March, which is very exciting. And this one is following Shane, but that's all I know because he's on the cover. So I know nothing else other than that. But the cliffhanger that it left me on in book 2, I'm desperate for this one, so looking forward to that. And then finally, let's go through the releases in April. There are several coming out April 1st, the first of which being Holy Terrors by Margaret Owen. This is book 3 in the Little Thieves series. I've really enjoyed this series and looking forward to wrapping this up and seeing what kind of trouble and misfortunes that Vanya gets herself into. Can't tell you much about this one again because it's the 3rd book, but curious to see how she's going to wrap all of this up. I do like this little note though. It says, Margaret Owen shows us the pain and beauty of choosing which demons to face and which to forgive. That's cute. And then we have book 2 of the Shadow of the Leviathan series, A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. I am also very much looking forward to this coming out April 1st. The first book is The Tainted Cup, which I really enjoyed. This says, An impossible murder and empire on the brink. I'm curious to see how the world is going to expand in this, but I think it's going to kind of act like Sherlock Holmes books, where it's like one mystery in one book and it's not necessarily a continuous thread of story. I think there will be a continuous thread of some plot and underlying mysteries, but I think this is going to be its own thing from what I can tell. But it says that the detective Anna may have finally met her match in this gripping sequel. An impossible crime has occurred. A Treasury officer has disappeared into thin air, abducted from his quarters, while the doors and windows remain locked from the inside, in a building whose entrances and exits are all under constant guard. They discover they're not investigating a disappearance, but a murder, and that the killing was the first chess move by an adversary who seems to be able to pass through warded doors like a ghost and who can predict every one of Anna's moves as though they can see the future. Very interesting. And like I said, I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm looking forward to continuing the series. And the next one is one I think was on my TBR or anticipated releases 3 years ago, and it's finally just now coming out. And that is The Notorious Virtues by Alwyn Hamilton. It's supposed to come out April 1st. And it says, a glamorous media darling, a surprise heiress, and the magical competition of a lifetime. Incredible tests, impossible choices, and deadly odds await both girls, but there can only be one winner. I'm just reading like little synopsis things that different platforms have posted. One of them says, prepare yourself for a simply magical adventure where royalty and knights collide. I'm curious. And then we have House of Blight. This is book 1 in the Threadmender Chronicles by Maxim M. Martanu. This is supposed to come out April 8th. And it says it's the first novel in an eerie, darkly creative, and romantic new gothic fantasy duology for readers of Sarah J. Maas and Rachel Gillig, which you know I love some Rachel Gillig as well. Adira is a threadmender. She holds a rare, life-saving power that can cure disease and heal injuries in the blink of an eye. But magic always comes with a cost, and saving anyone sacrifices a sliver of her own life. She's always kept her abilities hidden until the powerful Fernglove family discovers her secret. The Ferngloves are charming and beautiful, possess powerful magic, and don't take no for an answer, especially Orin, the head of these ruling elites. When Adira's brother unexpectedly contracts Blight, an incurable virus killing people throughout the town, and an illness too strong for her to heal them both, Orin offers to help. Together at his estate, they'll research a cure while Orin slows their sickness and Adira hones her magic. His kindness and honesty surprises her, as does her undeniable attraction to him, but the other Ferngloves are suspicious of her power and may be more dangerous than the ever-present disease. The longer she stays within the confines of the manor, the more the family's pristine exterior begins to crack, until she discovers a terrifying secret and she must choose who she can save and at what cost. Just sounds interesting, and like something that is very mysterious and fun. And next, also coming out April 8th, is Firebird by Juliet Cross. This is book 1 in the Fire That Binds series, and it's got some cool sprayed edges on this thing. It's House of the Dragon meets From Blood and Ash in this epic, scorching, dark romantasy. A conqueror captivated, a witch prophesied to save them all, a world where dragons rule Rome. From the moment Roman general and his nephew to the emperor, Julianus Daca, laid eyes on Melina, he was enthralled by the Dacian dancer. Years later, the fierce beauty stands before him on a scarred battlefield, her life in danger. He instinctively shifts into his fierce dragon form to save her, an action that may mean his head on the imperial gate. But he and his dragon know one thing: she belongs to them. Melina can't believe that the centurion who once bestowed a secret talisman on her is a Roman general of a legendary brutality. His warrior prowess cannot be denied, yet they don't reveal the secrets he hides. All Melina knows is that his protection and gentle touch, and she cannot deny that her soul has always seemed to answer his. As they navigate a world where flying death riders conquer and burn, their love will ignite a firestorm that can only end in heartbreak or death, or both. I love that there's dragons in this. It reminds me a little bit of Emma Hand's series, The Dragon of Umbra, so I'm curious about this and excited to read it at some point after April 8th. And another one that I am hoping this is actually the case and it's actually coming out April 12th. Because I know the author has been working on this for a while, but it does say it's coming out April 12th at this moment, and that is Master of the Fallen by Justin Call. This is book 3 in the Silent God series. The first one is Master of Sorrows, and it's a villain origin story, which is really, really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed the first 2 books. They're a little bit like slower high fantasy, but I've enjoyed them so far. So this one is the next one following an Ev, and I can't really tell you much about it other than it's a villain origin story, and it's the 3rd book in the series. And I'm curious to see if he's gonna just like keep going darker, or in the character like becoming the villain. I'm curious how it's gonna go. So hopefully it's actually coming out, because I've been waiting. It's been on my anticipated releases before and it hasn't come out, but it says it's coming out. And then book 2 in the Sansi trilogy is supposed to be coming out, The Ashfire King by Chelsea Abdullah, the first one being The Stardust Thief. And I'm very curious to see how this story unfolds as well. I really liked the characters you're following in the gen. It's really interesting. I didn't love it as much as like Amina El-Sarafi, for instance, but I'm very curious to see how this goes. And it's the 2nd book, so I can't tell you a lot about it. It does come out April 15th, and I'm curious because we have been waiting a while to continue the story. And then we have Scorched Skies by E.J. Melow, book 1 of The Way of Wings. This is supposed to come out April 15th as well. It says this is book 1 in an epic duology inspired by the Icarus myth about an outcast woman and a winged prince torn between forbidden love and born duty. In the divided city of Kadra, where the winged Valari rule over the earthbound Sura, Tanwyn has never relished her life of secrecy, but hiding is her only means of survival. As the child of the Forbidden Union, her very existence is punishable by death. As the crown prince, Zola is forced to fulfill his father's every whim. Acting on orders, he captures Tenwen's brother and father, whisking them away to his kingdom in the sky. Determined to save her family, Tenwen infiltrates the royal court disguised as a servant. Amid the palace's intrigue, she realizes there's more to save than just her family, and more to Prince Zola than meets the eye. As their worlds collide, their star-crossed relationship intensifies under the king's oppression. With their loyalties pulling them in opposite directions, Tenwen and Zola must decide if their love can bridge the divide or if they've flown too close to the sun. The fact that this is like about the Icarus myth makes me a little bit nervous that this is not going to have a happy ending, but I'm intrigued. And then we have The Raven Scholar, Book 1 in the Eternal Path trilogy by Antonia Hinson. This says, from an electrifying new voice in epic fantasy comes The Raven Scholar, a masterfully woven and playfully inventive tale of imperial intrigue, cutthroat competition, and one scholar's quest to uncover the truth. Let us now fly to the Empire of Orin, where after 24 years of peace, Bursun the Bursk must end his reign. In the dizzying heat of midsummer, 7 contenders compete to replace him. They are exceptional warriors, thinkers, strategists, the best of the best. Then one of them is murdered. It falls to Nima, the Emperor's brilliant, idiosyncratic high scholar, to find the killer before the trials end. To do so, she must untangle a web of deadly secrets that stretches back generations, all while competing against 6 warriors with their own dark histories and fierce ambitions. Nima believes she is alone, but we are here to help. All she has to do is let us in. If she succeeds, she will win the throne. If she fails, death awaits her. But we won't let that happen. We are the Raven, and we are magnificent. That is so vague and mysterious and yet intriguing, so I'm very curious to see that, and that one's supposed to come out April 24th. And then the 4th book in the Nevermore series by Jessica Townson is supposed to come out, Silverborn, April 25th. I think she did say this is a hard and fast date and that it will come out then, because she's had to change the date a few times, I believe. But she's saying it is going to come out, and this is the 4th book, so obviously I can't tell you much about it. I haven't read the 3rd book yet, but I'm looking forward to continuing and excited that it's coming out. Oh, and on April 22nd, The Tainted Khan by Taran Matharu is coming out. This is the 2nd book in the Soulbound saga. I didn't love the first one, Dragon Rider, but it has dragons in it, and I'm curious enough to continue to see what happens. Maybe I'll end up not liking it and not wanting to continue, but I liked the first one enough to want to continue, even though I was kind of disappointed by it. So I'm curious to see where the story is going to lead. And then the last book we're going to talk about today, and the last anticipated release for April, is The Floating World by Axio, Book 1 in the Floating World series. This is supposed to come out April 29th. And it says Final Fantasy meets Shadow and Bone in this romantic fantasy reimagining and Korean legend of celestial maidens. Sunho lives in the underworld, a land of perpetual darkness. An ex-soldier, he can remember little of his life from before 2 years ago, when he woke up alone with only his name and his sword. Now he does odd jobs to scrape by until he comes across the score of a lifetime, a chest of coins for any mercenary who can hunt down a girl who wields Silverlight. Meanwhile, far to the east, Ren is a cheerful and spirited acrobat, traveling with her adoptive family and performing at villages. Everything changes during one of their festival performances when the village is attacked by a horrific human-like demon. In a moment of fear and rage, Ren releases a blast of Silverlight, a power she has kept hidden since childhood, and kills the monster. But her efforts are not in time to prevent her adoptive family from suffering a devastating loss or to save her beloved uncle from being grievously wounded. Determined to save him from succumbing to the poisoned world, Ren sets off over the mountains where the creature came from and from where Ren herself fled 10 years ago. Her path sets her on a collision course with Sunho, but he doesn't realize she's the girl that he and the 100 other swords for hire are looking for. As the two grow closer through their travels, they come to realize that their past and destinies are far more entwined than either of them could have imagined. It sounds really good, and I'm really curious about the world aspects of like Final Fantasy versus mixed with Shadow and Bone. It just sounds really intriguing and good, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So those are my anticipated releases for the first quarter of 2025. I will continue to update this with the other quarters as we go along. but very much looking forward to this. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of good releases this year, and I'm very curious to see what 2025 has in store for us readers. But for now, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.